So this is a question around kosher, the laws of kosher, and managing relations with other people, family, friends. It's such a common issue, but I wonder whether there's enough wisdom that is really offered around this, where you'll have people who decide they want to become more observant in Jewish practice, and it might be at odds with what some family or friends do. And people have different ways of trying to manage that and go about that, and it can end up causing offense. It can end up causing tensions. People can end up compromising or end up not well, they can end up either compromising on the rules or they can end up compromising on their relationships. um, and it can sometimes be so sad to see how people who are looking, and I'm not, this is not without blaming anyone, but so sad to see how you could have people choosing to keep more of Torah and it causing, you know, relationship pain and hurt. And it feels like that should never be the case when one is keeping more of Torah. So I wondered what your guidance would be for people managing that kind of thing.
You're absolutely right. It should never happen. You should never be hurting somebody with the excuse that you're becoming better. So you should never become righteous at someone else's expense. That is not righteous at all. If you think you're right, then convince your partner, convince your friend, convince your spouse. But you certainly can't impose it. Like, for example, if a man decides he wants to be a little more observant, he wants to keep kosher, his wife is not excited about the idea. Either he convinces her before he actually imposes the laws of kashrut, or he presents it like an experiment or a possibility. I would like to explore keeping kosher. Most people won't object to that. Now you can explore it together. So it's not like you've reached a decision and now she has to cooperate or there's trouble. You haven't reached a decision without her, but you want to look into it. And you're telling her in advance, I'm going to look into this. I'm going to explore this, and I'll let you know what I find. And if you want, explore it with me. But you don't come home with an ultimatum. You were inspired by something. Nobody told you to do it. But now that you're inspired, your wife has to obey you and do it. That's not fair. You're not obeying anybody. You were inspired. Well, inspire her. Or wait till she has an inspiration. But don't force her to do something that you're inspired by. Become self-righteous. Yes, you're right. You are right. And she should cooperate. But not if it hurts her. You're right, but you can't impose that on somebody else. Even God doesn't impose. He gives you freedom of choice. So that's the rule of thumb. Do not be righteous at someone else's expense. And there are many ways that we do that. It's not just in a relationship. It's in just because you feel you're right, it gives you license to be insensitive. Happens so often.
So let's deal with another example. You have a boy who goes to yeshiva for a year, decides he wants to go. It wasn't expected in his family, and he comes back and he says, "Look, I want to keep. I'm gonna I'm gonna be strict in keeping kosher now." The family say we're going to our family friends for a Shabbat meal, and they're just not in any way as observant as this guy is. He says, "Look, I'm happy to go, but I need to ask if I can, if they can make some." And they say we can't do that. It's so imposing. It's so, but it'd be so devastating if you couldn't join us as well. You couldn't be there as part of the family at the meal. What does one do in that circumstance?
You go
But
and you have a few drinks.
you go and you have a few drinks.
You can be sociable. You don't have to
But
eat everything on the table.
they might say, why aren't you eating my food?"
I'm vegetarian. So that's acceptable. That's respected. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We should have made a different meal for you. Next time we'll make a different meal for you because you're vegetarian. Why can't you just say I'm keeping kosher?
Well, then it gets into tricky territory. Sometimes they think they are kosher, but they don't realize, and it's just very awkward
Yeah,
conversations.
right, but it's a good conversation.
Well, also sometimes they may well be, but you just don't know, and you're scared to have the chat, and it's awkward to start prodding them. How do you deal with that?
Well, you don't have to stop being sociable because of your eating habits. Go and enjoy their company. That's all they want.
Right.
It does become a little bit sensitive because if you say I'm keeping kosher, you're kind of implying that they should be too. So their guilt kicks in.
Or implying that they're not when they think they may well be, because they just don't know. They think they are
Right,
doing it.
right. But if you say you're vegetarian, nobody feels guilty.
Right, right.
You're
You know,
vegetarian, I'm not.
yeah, like I won't be told how to manage my kitchen. Like,
But I think if you really are friendly, it won't come across nasty. If you're self-righteous, then you deserve to be thrown out.
mm, that's so interesting. So, what would you say? So, but someone, let's say they want to still be able to make kiddush, and what chances are probably the wine and the bread would be fine anyway, right?
Probably. And if not, so you don't.
So, you think it's fine to bypass kiddush and bread on Friday night for the sake of peace?
You don't need bread. You don't make it a meal, just a snack. Yeah, there is no reason to destroy life in an attempt to create life.
What if a I can imagine a religious person listening to this and they'd say, by you going to that meal, it's like Morris Iron. People will think, oh well, Ollie goes to that person's house, so it's clearly kosher, it's clearly fine.
No, you don't break up a family over that.
Hmm.
I imagine, okay, you sit down to the meal and you're not touching anything. And they say, why
Right,
aren't you eating? And you say, just recently I decided to keep kosher. I'm not even sure what all the rules are.
right.
And they'll have so much respect for you. It's not insulting. It's not an accusation. It's not.
But if they say no, but we do keep kosher, we do that, and then you start getting to that, it could be very, very awkward. In some
But
ways, some people might say this could even potentially risk being more insulting. You go, you accept an invitation, and then in front of them, you don't touch anything.
that's only if they know about kosher and they know that they should be kosher,
Yeah,
and
that's what. Yeah,
it triggers the whole guilt thing.
yeah. I'm saying in those circumstances.
Yeah. But if you're saying, I don't know either, I don't know what's kosher, it's kind of disarming rather than saying, oh, I'm kosher now.
Right.
I'm, I'm kosher. Get out of here.
Right, but I'm saying, so what do you do in a circumstance where you're no longer new to the game? You want to show up to that family meal.
So
They don't.
you eat what you can and pretend to be completely sated.
Yeah. What are the kind of safe things to go to normally at a Shabbat meal? Like cold food, presumably, and
Oh, oh, yeah, whatever. And don't keep it a secret.
mm,
If you keep it a secret, it makes it 10 times worse. And if you're friendly, you shouldn't have to keep secrets.
yeah. It's funny.
Just
Literally,
don't
it's to go for it.
just don't be self-righteous.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just in a cafe the other day with a friend, and I said I just want to check the ingredients on this thing they're pouring into my coffee, and I said by the way, it's not a Jewish thing. It's just my stomach's a bit sensitive because I knew what the thing was, and they said okay, and it's fine if it is a Jewish thing, like a kosher thing. Uh, that's fine. You don't have to hide it. And what would you say to people who say or think if my spouse simply doesn't want to get on board with me being more religious, or I married them when they were religious, but now they don't want to keep anything? They say maybe this is after trying and trying and trying, maybe this is grounds for a breakup. This touches on our earlier discussion about the sanctity of marriage. What's your view on that?
If they can't work it out and they can't come to some understanding, then there's something else wrong with the marriage.
Mm.
I just had a recent experience sitting next to a nice Jewish guy on the airplane, and we're having a nice conversation, and then the meal comes, and he gets the non-kosher meal, I get the kosher meal, and I can see the tension. Like, what is he supposed to say now? I, it's not like he has the right to be surprised that I'm keeping kosher. So just to break the tension, I said to him, you know how you can tell whether something is kosher? You know the kosher symbols? And we went into the whole thing with the OU and the OK and just a regular K and it just dissolved all the.
Right.
It became a learning experience, a little informational, and he enjoyed his meal and I didn't enjoy mine. Never make somebody pay for your righteousness.
Hi, thank you so much for watching. To watch another one, click here. To stay up to date with all our content, click here to subscribe. And if you're able to, you can help support JTV to grow and grow by clicking join below this video, where you can become a member and get perks including early access to videos and private live discussions with me. But most of all, you'll be partnering with us on our mission to change the world.